Hey, Vipin. Wait, I
Yeah.
could
Can you hear
hear.
me?
Oh, yes, now I can
Yeah,
hear.
my microphone was off.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So so when the webinar starts, does anything change for us?
No, nothing changes because actually we just started it to make sure everything is okay.
Okay, cool.
So we are live actually.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so we can switch the mic off probably, and we can or video also if you want. We can start it too. We just want to
Okay.
make sure everything is okay.
Okay, great. So I'll stay off camera and I'm here and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
excited.
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Hi, good afternoon. We are waiting for a couple of minutes. There's a few more participants joining, so we'll start in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, we are trying to log in one of our speakers. There was a slight hiccup. Anurag Yagnik, his link has not worked, so we are just waiting there. Sorry for the inconvenience. If you can hand for a few more minutes.
All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, Anurag is here. Thank you, Anurag. Sorry for this glitch.
Hey, no worries. At least it was a secure link.
Good. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for this technical glitch in the world of AI. So we'll start with you know giving a background on what we are trying to do today. Um, I am Vipin Bhardwaj, CEO of Diaspark, uh, an AI and data solutions firm with over 3 decades of experience serving mid-size and Fortune 500 clients globally. So it's my privilege to host two thought leaders, and I deeply admire both of them because I've seen them over the last 25, 30 years and the amazing work they have done. Anurag is the CTO of Profix, and I had the pleasure of watching his incredible journey from starting as an engineer at Diaspark as a colleague to leading a technology firm, Vitech. It was a SaaS platform firm. He rose rapidly through the ranks from an engineer to a CTO, and he played a key role in their growth to a $500 million enterprise. Um, he's always been an ace engineer, a strong architect, a great people leader, and someone who consistently has been ahead of the curve in tech adoption. I'm pretty sure he can still roll up his sleeves and code as an agent himself even today. Um, our other speaker, Sav, is the VP of product at Telium. Now, his journey has been equally inspiring. He began as a program manager, leading some of our Diaspark engineers. And I think it was 20 years back. And he was working with the interactive media agency. The name was GenAI. And from there, he went to become a client partner at WPP. WPP is one of the largest media companies in the world. And he helped large enterprises to shape their MarTech strategies. He now leads product marketing at leading SaaS company, which is Telium. It's been a truly amazingly well-rounded career path for him. So these two leaders bring a very varied perspective to what is happening around us in AI. So I'm really thrilled to be joined by both of them today. It's an absolute privilege to hold this power panel. I'd like to thank all of you also to joining in large numbers. You represent cross sections of engineering teams, thought leadership across different sectors, and I hope this will be a very exciting session for all of you. With that, I'd like our panelists to introduce themselves. I'll start with Anurag. Anurag, you can go ahead. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, it's good now. Vipin, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So given we lost some time and you already introduced me, I think I'm gonna skip my introduction. Vipin, thank you very much. This is a great honor to be here. I'll turn it over to you, Sam.
I'm back. Hey, hi guys. Yeah, same. Thank you, Vipin. Yes, you're right. I've known you for 20 plus years, and so nice to be here. Thank you for having us, and nice to meet you all.
Thank you. What we are trying to achieve here today is, we hear a lot of noise around AI. There is so much out there in terms of tools, adoption, use cases. So I'll quickly go over to each one of you and try to understand, when you hear about AI agents and data-driven products in simple business language, what do you feel? And second is, where do you see the real momentum versus hype across sectors when you talk about AI? So we'll start with Anurag first.
Right. Yeah. So as I think we know well that AI has been around for many, many years. We were doing machine learning mostly, which is great for projections, predictions, anomaly detection, mostly math, linear algebra, as my kids tell me. Um, but then, slowly and then suddenly in 2023, we moved into generative AI. And sort of to colloquially think of it, it's like we added a brain to the math, where the brain could start making some decisions and think about what specific pathways, any question that you ask, the response could take. And then with agentic AI, it's like we added limbs to the brain. So, we could actually take some action. The action might be updating some data or, scheduling something or, integrating systems or really even deciding, at the what tool to call based on the context and everything. So I think with agentic AI, we've made a pretty significant leap over the last 2 to 3 years, which is why there's so much excitement in the industry around AI. And in terms of, momentum, I think there's, so far what we've seen over the last couple of years is operational efficiency is a clear winner, right? So like we've really seen everyone become a little bit more productive in one way or another. The sheer reduction of grammatical errors in email you get, that itself is an example of a clear win, right? But kidding aside, like everyone, engineering, it's people are easily being 20 to 30% more productive, and in some use cases 2x. So there's operational efficiency. There's we're clearly winning. I think what is lagging a little bit behind are product features as we try to take this AI and actually build product and capabilities into our systems to give customers their business outcome. I think we're a little bit behind. We doesn't mean we won't get there, but I think we're just a little bit behind where operational efficiency is. So I think there's a little bit of hype there, but I think the industry is kind of preparing for where we would be in a couple of years, not quite there yet. Sev?
Yeah, I heavily echo everything you said. I love how you explain the brain and the limbs. I love that. For me, one of the ways I was explaining Gen AI to everybody is suddenly the machine could speak our language. So all this time we had to learn the UI, learn the code, learn the actual way of communicating with the machine or the software. And now suddenly you can just speak plain language to this software. But then that translator converts that to the machine language in the back. So this interface became absolutely frictionless. And the idea that now you can have so many SaaS applications that you can use through a prompt, while I don't think we're 100% there, but that's the vision. I think that is quite magical because it truly makes it the skill is now about understanding the application, not learning how to use the application, which is a very big difference. Even my parents are using Gen AI, which is blowing my mind. It took me so long to get my parents to send an attachment, but now they know how to use ChatGPT. So I think that part has truly been magical for
Yeah.
anybody in our space who's been doing ML for years. We launched our ML product in 2019 at Telium, but then Gen AI has actually made us have more discussions about that same product than we did for the 3 years before.
Yeah.
So that part has been amazing. The investment and the focus on this topic has been great. The number of tools, how easily everybody wants to invest in it and try it out, that all that is real. I think, just like Anurag said, there's still the human in the middle need for AI. I think the promise of the full automation and the full just turning on things with our customer facing, I think that's lagging behind. So the way I explain it is anything that's internal, data coming in or things that you're doing inside, that part is seeing huge increases. But anything that's actually customer facing and impacts your customer, that is lagging behind as it should. And then, of course, you have regulations, especially in EMEA, that are really holding things back, not holding things back, but making people more cautious there. So, and then last, I would say cost is a very big factor. It's very easy for us to feel like this is all available, but the minute you look at it enterprise point of view, then for them to run AI, it's very expensive still. So I think that part is still getting figured out. But in January, if you had asked me if we would be this far along with agents by November, I would not have agreed. So the speed of change is mind-blowing.
Yeah, for sure.
Great perspective, both of you. I think I'll add my 2 cents. What we see as a provider of these services and solutions. Um, when we started looking at this few years back, and where we are today, you rightly said, there has been a great journey. Um, so what we see today is, 2 ends of the spectrum. I was in San Francisco this week at Ignite conference, and the amazing tools, the sheer number of tools which are available today to try out new things using agents, number of use cases. The Microsoft talked about the Microsoft Foundry. They are talking about Fabric, Copilot agents. Uh, Even though we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, the sheer number of applications out there, it's overwhelming for a provider like us. So when I look at our clients, I see a definitive. So a week back, let's see the contrast. I was in Lancaster in Pennsylvania with one of our clients, and we were doing an AI webinar, AI workshop, and there were all the leadership teams. And all they're worried about is their day-to-day. And when you start talking about co-pilots, they use GPT. So rightly, LLMs have accelerated the inquisitiveness around these applications. And primarily what I see is, customer service automation, content generation and summarization, and maybe code assistants. They are some of the tools people have started to look at. And the maturity of these clients are very different. Some of them are really trying very exciting things like both of you, and some of the others are still grappling with where to start. That's a very, very wide spectrum. So
Yeah.
that brings me to the next question. Once you start talking about AI and people say data is like oil for AI. So when you look at data as foundation, how does how does your organization look at leveraging data? So I'll start with Anurag, you first.
Yeah, so I'd answer the question again from an operational and a product perspective. So from an operational perspective, our engineering team has been using generative AI coding assistance right from 2023, very early on, and we've seen tremendous progress and efficiency gains. And from that perspective, data is basically your code from our perspective, right? So, and the bigger your code, a little bit more complex it is, but it's great for us to be able to do quick prototypes, for us to be able to find very, very quick solutions for problems. So from that perspective, it's kind of interesting that your code actually becomes data for these first coding assistants and now agentic software engineers. So that's has been somewhat revealing. We didn't really think of our code as data in the past, and now it has kind of become data. From a product perspective, it's really our customers' data, right? So that's and the cleaner and the nicer your data, the better your AI is going to be able to help your customers. So specifically speaking from a Profix's perspective, and Profix makes enterprise software for financial planning and analysis and when we sell to the office of the CFO. So from our perspective, we make a bunch of different tools, a reporting agent, a budgeting agent that allows our users to be able to interact and query with their data in natural language, and then be able to perform anywhere from simple to complex tasks like either being able to command and control the application, just like you can command and control your phone, be able to say, or type, where is this particular report? Sometimes they just, if they're going into the application after a few days, they don't remember where that application or where that particular report or document is. So they can just ask for that, or be able to do very complex things like, initiate a budgeting process or send an entire budgeting schedule to all the department heads. So all of that is really based on their data. That is either the budgeting data that they have in our system or the process data that they have in our system. So we can work with those together and build very complex interactions.
Yeah.
So follow-up question there before I come to
Sorry.
Sam.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Um, what I want to understand is, in some of the other sectors we operate, the first and foundational work we have to do is educate the client about the importance of data.
Yeah.
Data is the culture. Do you use even data for bringing insights before you go into these very extensive and
Yeah.
insightful models? So how important it is, or is it part of your endeavor to teach your clients about the importance of data?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've probably been luckier than most other companies in the sense that we get financial data,
Hmm.
actuals and chart of accounts and things like that from our customers downstream from their ERP or GL systems. And of all the data in the enterprise that customers have, usually the financial data is the
Correct.
cleanest
Right.
because you have to report on it, and a lot of lives depend on that very directly. So I think we've been a little bit lucky where most of the data that our customers have in our system, or what we are the system of record for, is pretty clean. So it actually makes it a little bit easier. This hasn't been the case in the past where the customers might have a lot of duplication. And when I say past, I mean other jobs that I've had where the customer might have a lot of duplication, or just not the type of quality that you would expect. But in this, at Profix specifically, we've kind of avoided that whole pitfall, luckily.
Great. And then do you also look at now the predictive capabilities of this data? So visualization is the first part.
Yeah.
You looking at, giving insights and predictions to your clients so that they can take action before things go
Yeah.
south? Hmm.
Yeah. So good point. So, forecasting and prediction, again, as Sam was talking about, we've had that for a long time in our product, maybe from the, I would say, mid 2010s, mostly driven by machine learning, AI again, but not Gen AI driven. Um, and we've had those capabilities, and customers have used them, and they've been happy with them. But to Sav's earlier point, we've seen a lot more excitement um, when we talk about the same tools in the context of GenAI, because there's just so much more awareness.
Yeah.
And people often ask us like, "Hey, can we just forecast this series? Like we have this, we have this actuals for the last 3 years. Can you forecast them?" And we're like, "Yes, it's already there. You can just use the tool. We don't have to build. We don't have to necessarily use to shove GenAI in there to build that, because that there are probably much more deterministic tools that we have um, you know um, improved over many decades, mathematical algorithms that we've improved over many decades. So even though they're not, even they're more on the probabilistic side, they're still a lot more deterministic than some of the GenAI output. So I think that's kind of, sometimes you have to make customers understand that while GenAI is all the hype, it's not necessarily the answer to everything, right? So
Right.
that's something that we go through with our customers.
Great. Thanks.
It,
Sorry, Sav, I kept you holding. So
oh, no, no worries. I just what Anurag just shared made me think that Gen AI is the rising tide that lifts all the ML and AI boats, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's making people care about it, and suddenly then you can
yeah,
say, well, yeah, you can do it better with this specific model. So, talking about data in general, like I don't know if you guys have heard this quote and stat that every year the amount of data on the planet doubles,
correct.
right? And that's been true for the last 10 or 15 years. So just think about how ridiculous that is. But with all of us watching video all day and all of us consuming video all day, the amount of data on the planet is going crazy. If you saw the stock prices of the data centers, right, it's going like
yeah,
this right now. So the crazy thing is, since we are a CDP, 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, we were walking into a customer and we were trying to explain to them the value of first party data and why they have to invest in it and how they should think about it, what they can get. And I don't have that conversation anymore. That is almost the opposite now. People have already made that decision. They've already understood that investing in data has very real ROI, and that it really flipped during COVID, right? there was a quote from Satya actually right after COVID that he said 10 years of digital transformation happened in 2 months because of COVID. And so we saw that as a very big shift when people started appreciating the value of data for digital transformation. And then Gen AI came along, and now it's become very clear to people that technology and data, they go together. And if you treat your data as an asset and as a product, you can unlock a lot of value. So we are educating people on the value of data a lot less than we used to. But what we are educating them on is just any data tool doesn't mean it gives you all the capabilities that you want. So if you just get a Snowflake or a Databricks, just because you have that, that's a great first step, sure, but it doesn't necessarily give you everything else downstream that you want. You have to think about a lot of other things with it. Uh, so like you said, you used the phrase, Vipin, about the spectrum, right? Very
Mhm.
wide spectrum. It's the same, I think. We have customers who are super far advanced on AI and just maturity, and make even us feel like as a tech platform, we're not able to even think about what they're asking for. And then we have customers who don't even have a single AI use case in production right now. So we have the whole spectrum in the middle. And the fact is that the biggest learning I've had personally about AI and ML is it works very well in narrow use cases, but the whole story is about the broad use case, right? We talk about Gen AI being like you can ask anything to Chat GPT, but in the enterprise, it's the opposite of that. It needs
Mhm.
to be extremely focused and narrow for it to be successful. So that's really the education I think we talk about with everybody. They think that the minute you have an LLM in the product, you can do anything with it. We're like, well, not really. Everything needs to be trained for that specific purpose. So I would say my education today that I do with customers, a lot of it has to do with uh, what kinds of investments in your strategy and technology you need to do for what kind of outcomes. Uh, where are the things that will investments that will set you up for future success versus today's success, hype versus reality in AI and ML. Thankfully, our ICP is real big enterprise, so they're very mature data and AI teams most of the times. So we're not fighting a negative tide mostly. We're usually just trying to influence them. But our big issue is there's just too many options. So they want to rabbit hole into every option. So that's become the new problem now. There's just too many ways to do the same thing. And it's just understanding the trade-offs. So that's becoming the big conversation now. What happens if I put my LLM at the edge versus I put the LLM at the center? What happens if I use this kind of API versus this kind of API? So like all these things matter. I read a quote today that the real unlock is not necessarily the model, but it's everything you put above the model, and that's
Sure.
that's a fact.
So that's a perfect segue, and I'll stay with you, Sav, on this
Yeah.
one. So you talked about, instead of going all over, you narrow it down to specific areas where this delivers most value to the clients. So being a product company, how do you pick in your product what kind of AI, ML, or these AI features you want to build in your product? Whether it's a recommendation engine because you have a consumer data platform, so you're looking at obviously lifetime value,
Yep.
customer journey. So how do you embed some of these AI tools into your products? How do you decide which one are most important for you, like co-pilots or agents? If you can throw some light on that.
Yeah, yeah. It's not straightforward as it was for other products and features. I think so I'll give you a couple of examples. Like we have an internal Gen AI tool called Glean that we use that indexes all our company information. And then it's become like the almost like the internet, if you will, of our entire knowledge base for the whole company. But last year, even Q4 of last year, it was quite average, below average in the results it was giving. And then this year, it's fantastic. It took a whole year of everybody using it and giving thumbs up, thumbs down, and actually like letting it index content. And now it's amazing. So, the problem with AI, Gen AI specifically, is that it doesn't just work great out of the box. So even if I launch an AI product, so we launched this Note Gen product in our tool, means once I create an attribute or a audience or a connector, I have to write a description for what that is. and now our AI will auto-generate that description for you. But we couldn't just launch it across the whole platform right at the first day. We had to start with the simplest part of the platform, use it there, understand the cost, the scale, the performance, the load, and then scale it to everything else one by one. And so all the AI is going like that. We start small, build out the infrastructure, build out all the capabilities, and then fine tune the model, and then sort of scale it to everything else. So on the Gen AI side, we're having to do that approach. So we have a node generation product. We have an insights product, which actually, if supposing somebody gives you a piece of customer feedback, it's unstructured data. So this LLM will tell you sentiment, it'll tell you category, it'll tell you a label, it'll tell you, is it about shipping? Is it about the product? Is it about payment? Is it about, delivery? So that's one product. And then the other one we have is a propensity machine learning model. That's a full like enterprise ML model that runs and tells you likelihood to return, likelihood to purchase. That one, the learning was we tried to make it one model will be able to predict many different types of actions, and that failed. And then when we narrowed it down to 3 actions, likelihood to return, likelihood to churn, likelihood to convert, it became fantastic. So what we are finding is we have 3 or 4 criteria. How viable is that feature or AI idea for our platform? Can we actually do it? Just because our competitor did it doesn't mean we have the infrastructure to do it. From a cost point of view, is it something we can take on? And then would our customer want us to be the one to deliver that value versus get it from somebody else? Because like we discussed, they have so many options to get the same score. I want to be able to give them scores that I can give better than other people. So that's kind of what we are focused on. But it's a lot of noise. We're having to manage our product team to focus a lot, actually. More than my customers, my product team, we have struggled to get them to focus.
Anurag, same question to you. How are you reducing that noise and zeroing down on some tools which are most important for embedding in new products?
Yeah, so from our perspective, we've taken an approach where we've done some analysis to figure out what are the things that our customers do the most, and intersected that with things that they find the most painful to do. So that kind of gives us a good heat map of things that we should focus on. So some of the things that our customers found most painful was to be able to ask ad hoc questions and by about their finances. And by that what I mean is that a lot of software in general is designed to be hyper specific. You have a report that answers a specific set of questions. You have some parameters around that to make it a little bit more flexible, but in general, it's a specific type of question. You could make another report that's again, adds to your library. You make another one over the years, but that has not been a great solution. It's not a scalable solution because you still can't ask, because life makes you ask random questions, right? So like at any given day, I need to know, that particular product in that particular geography being sold by that particular salesman. And I want to combine, APAC and EMEA for this particular report. So those are the type of questions that are hardest. You can go into a report and slice and dice, take 2 reports combined. So that's where I think our natural language based Copilot, which behind the scenes operates our reporting agent, has been very useful for our customers, where they can just ask without having to worry about where is this report, what are the parameters of this report, and when the report comes out, will it just give me one answer, or I'll have to go through the entire report and find that one piece, or will I have to summarize it more, or things like that. So that's been very useful for us. But this is again inquiry, right? Like kind of things you can do with dashboards and all that. But of course, this is more natural language driven and more ad hoc. And then the other part of this is to actually do some work, right? So again, you could have had a tool that says, you know what, for next year, give everyone a 3% raise, or maybe 10%, hopefully, but generally not, unless you're, I guess, working for some AI company in San Francisco. But mostly it's like, give everyone a 3% raise, or whatever percent you specify, right? So those are again purpose-built systems to do data updates. But what if you wanted to have it more free flow, more ad hoc? I'm gonna add 5 people to my budget that are starting staggered from July through 2026 through December. And because you're doing that, also increase the employee entertainment expense by $10,000 for Q4 of 2026. Right? So you just say that, and then it figures out and updates it for you. That's a lot easier for most people to work with than to actually go in and find your budget sheet and be able to enter all of that manually and make sure that you've remembered to do all of that. So that's all. So that's where we're focused on, and we're seeing a lot of adoption here. Obviously, it's a lot. From in terms of usage, we see that inquiry is still the #1 use case, but because people are still a little bit worried about updates, what if it doesn't do it right, and what if it updates something else? So there's still some hesitation in our customers, but I think longer term, the action-oriented use cases are going to be a lot more useful. Not to say that inquiry is going to go away, but so most of our focus has been on those two things, reporting and budgeting, because that's kind of our bread and butter for our application. A couple of other interesting things that I was talking about is controlling the application, because our users are not in the application 24/7. They come into the application, once in a while, like when they're updating their budget. It's not every day. So many users just forget where stuff is, right? So what if you can just ask, where's my report, or can you just point me to my latest budget, and it can actually provide you hyperlinks or open the document for you where you can start editing. So I think they've been very useful for us. So those are the areas that we have focused.
I love that you have the gift of structured data and consistent data over years, which is such a gift for AI.
Yeah.
Our world is like every customer has a completely different profile and completely different way of speaking to data. But yeah, I love the way you described it. Just to add to what I said before, we have multiple categories as well. We are doing intelligence. What can we tell you about the data you gave us and help you do better with the data? Productivity, I like how you describe that, the stuff that they would find hard to do. What can we simplify? And then the third one is automation for things that you need to do, but you probably don't do. So just telling you about alerts and issues and quality and things like that. So those are our 3 categories that we're investing in. And productivity is the one that everybody wants. They get most excited about when I show the roadmap, but intelligence is the one where my market is competing with me the most, actually. So those are the 2 areas that we end up talking about a lot.
Great. So I think I have an interesting question here. So we are not traditional AI first organization. We had a good product which was running earlier, and then AI kind of came in over the last 5-7 years. And there is a change element to all of this. I mean, even though we are technology organization, still there is some level of change required in terms of adoption of these new technologies, educating people. There is always a resistance. We see that resistance all the time with respect to some of our clients in certain sectors. So how easy was this change? We saw an example today. We have been doing these Zoom webinars for the last 1 year, and today we moved on to Teams for the first time. And we did a couple of dry runs in the morning, and then we had a 5-7 minutes hiccup at the start, with all this preparation. So change is not easy. There is a cultural issue, there is resistance. So in your organization, how did you bring this cultural change? And B, how do you see that change panning out with respect to your clients?
Yeah, so us being essentially a financial services company, just helping customers create budgets and compare them to actuals and do analysis on that. Accuracy is very important, right? So you often hear, oh, this model is like 95% accurate, and people are super happy. I mean, if you're in finance, 99.5% accuracy would get you fired instantly. Because when you're talking about cents and dollars, you need to be as close to 100% as possible. So I think we were very hesitant. Our entire organization, as should be, and our customers were hesitant that yeah, this is great. It will help your kids write a term paper, and maybe it'll help me write emails. But I don't know if I'm gonna, I'm not sure that I can trust it to produce my balance sheet, right? So or something equivalent to that, right? Like I don't know if this is going to work for me, and that is true. So so there was a lot of resistance internally to like maybe we should do different. We shouldn't do data inquiry because what if we report something wrong and like or we shouldn't do this particular thing. Maybe we should stay on the periphery, like give people knowledge or application control and those kind of things. Maybe not allow them to update budgets and things like that. So there was a fair amount of thinking about whether we should even do this. On the so on the one hand, it was like customers still wanted this, so they would either take our data out of our system and push it somewhere else, which was not great for us, and honestly not even great for them because now they have the same data in multiple places and stuff like that. So we knew we had to build, which also meant that we had to architect it in a way to reduce some of the probabilistic nature of the LLM. So that was, I think, probably the number one architecture and engineering challenge for us to try to. I mean, you can't, at least given the technology we have right now, you can't eliminate the probabilistic nature, but you can get close to. You can use. There are tools you can use or approaches you can use to reduce it as much as possible. And so, we wanted to put that in, and we came up with a structure that works for us really well. And based on what we're seeing out in the field, customers are generally pretty happy with the results they're getting. We very rarely get feedback like you were off by $1 million when you built our balance sheet. So we're thankfully not getting those kind of that kind of feedback. So very, very happy about that. But in general, yes, you have to kind of consider the field that you're in and understand what works in your particular field, what would work for your customers. And then you have to also understand, the skill set in your organization and either reach out externally or do the right thing before you roll these features out in your products.
Right.
Yeah, I have very similar experience. I mean, finance is one of our biggest verticals. So last year when I was at dinner with customers, they're like, we're not touching AI for a while. We want to see where it goes. Last year I had big customers telling me, if you talk to me about AI, we're going to kick you out of the room. We don't sell us AI right now. We don't believe it. And then this year it's the opposite. Every single person in most industries at least wants to know what the AI vision is. But it really matters which industry, how far along they are, where they are in the process. Are they looking to do AI now versus later? How much do they understand? What roles? So for our sellers, we coach them a lot on you got to qualify, you got to understand who you're talking to. You're going to see what their appetite is and understanding and go for it. And we try to educate them depending on just what their general thought process seems to be and their appetite. But we compete with Adobe and Salesforce, and Salesforce launched Agentforce last year, and they're making a huge amount of noise about it. So we kind of get forced into that conversation because of my industry, and we don't get to avoid that. And plus, my CEO is like massively on the hype train. So our CEO is just, he never stops talking about it. So in our company, at least, we've actually had the opposite problem that he took my head count earlier this year and told me straight, that I'm taking two of your heads and hopefully you can make it work with AI. And I'm in marketing, so I kind of have to go with that. But he's been really pressuring us to try stuff, and then they're doing it a lot on the operational side, so we are getting inspired by that. But if you're not experimenting with AI now, you're going to have to do very quickly. So I think it's something that it's so easy at the personal level to play with it and understand it and try it out, that is a very big advantage. So that's kind of what we coach everybody is at least start trying it out in your personal life. At least start trying it out for the things you do at work. At least start understanding the capability and the power of this thing, because if you're not using it today, you're going to be using it tomorrow. That's for sure.
That brings me to, let's talk about where you have been able to move the needle in terms of actual success stories with your customers. So just one or two examples of where you see that, your solutions have already delivered tangible value and you can establish the ROI, which is the most important, thing when you talk about AI initiatives.
Yeah, so I'll start. we record all our sales calls. And first it used to just be a video, then it started becoming a transcript. But if there's like 85, 90 calls a day, nobody's going to go read all those transcripts or watch those videos. Now, literally, the whole company gets one email every morning with a 5-line summary of every single sales call that happened yesterday. And it has a rating of a sentiment. It tells you the risk level of the customer, and it tells you which topic and which product they talked about. And like you can scan that email in 10 minutes and you immediately know what's going on. And
Yeah.
it's like such a massive aligning force for all of us. When some customers at risk, all of us know before anything happens. Before, it used to become a huge problem before we all found out. So
Yeah.
I think where you're able to unlock it, that's been a very powerful use case. And the second one, I would say, has been just we've got quite a few automated SDR plays that we're running for our sales team. The minute you hit a certain part of the funnel, what content, based on which role, based on which industry, based on which product, that's all automated now. And it's actually pretty good. And then, of course, the person modifies it a little bit, but their work has been cut by 70, 80%, I would say. So, and then last, I would say we are finding a lot of success on the code side, like Anurag mentioned earlier, for code translating. We are migrating a lot of our code from other languages now to Python and to Ruby, and it's really helping with the translation. That's a very big unlock. And then on the customer side, I think propensity is very big, likelihood to do certain actions, next best offer, personalization for different content. Those are all very narrow use cases that our customers have found a lot of success with now. But again, it's not Gen AI when it's customer facing. It usually tends to be traditional ML, which is more successful. But it's now back in, it's cool again, I would say. In the middle, it was struggling, but now it's cool again.
Yeah, Anurag. Some use cases
Yeah,
which
no, I was just agreeing. Yeah, it's definitely cool. Yeah, so I mean, agree with a lot of what Sev said. I think it's about, at the end of the day, building the tools that work for customers, right? So they're solving their problems. Being an engineer, many times we are trying to build features and capabilities that are cool versus what necessarily helps the business outcome. And I think it's important to kind of be aware of that. Every engineer I know wants to build an AI-driven feature right now. But a lot of times customers are just struggling with basic experience stuff. So I think that's important for us to be honest with ourselves and focus on what solves real problems. And if that's AI, it's fine. But it's not always that.
which brings me to, so the maturity which you have attained, both your organization and the level of expertise you have developed, that you've already shared in the last half an hour in terms of your initiative on your products. It requires a great team to achieve that kind of success. So in these times, the two important things. One is you have to do reskilling of your existing pool of employees, and B is acquiring the right talent to do all this. So how did your organizations go about this reskilling and acquisition of talent?
Yeah, so because we're a technology company at the heart of it, it was relatively easy for us to upskill our engineers anyway, because they were kind of burning the midnight oil to upskill themselves. Right? So there are those engineers who are like, oh, this is new technology, I'm going to learn it overnight, do whatever it takes. And they're the ones who are usually very successful in being the leaders and trailblazers, if you will. So we were lucky to have a handful of those engineers, and they kind of upskilled on their own. But we also sent them on a bunch of training sessions. We're also a big AWS partner, so we were able to leverage a bunch of their training courses, bunch of their training sessions that they offer, and training about how to use their technologies, which is what we've used to build our AI capabilities. So that was one part of it, right? Like skilling up the team to learn just the nuts and bolts technology. And the other is perhaps a more difficult part of like, where do we use it to solve what problem, right? It's like, it always feels like, oh, this is a technical problem, but before it becomes a technical problem, it usually is a product problem. And product problems are harder to solve, I think, because a lot of times, engineering, you can within reason build anything, but it's like, should you be building that thing, or what thing should you be building is the more important question. And we struggled with that. Like I said earlier, there was some hesitation to what we should be even building, and should we even be using any of this at all. So there was a lot of hesitation there. So we had to kind of rethink about how we design our application, how do we plan our features. The other kind of thing with AI is that it tends to move faster, right? Like, so, I mean, traditional software, you don't have entire frameworks change overnight, right? Like, there's usually like, okay, you're given a bunch of, .NET's coming out with a new version, or AWS is now going to have this new service, and like you have a lot of time usually. And here, yeah, Sav's shaking his head agreeing, right? Like, it's like stuff is changing beneath your feet. Like, it's constant motion, and it's very difficult. And so that was the other operational part, was the other part where, oh, and like you're gonna have to constantly iterate. So like your previous speed, we felt we were like quite fast for our industry, where we were deploying a new release in a month, and we felt like, oh, that was great. Now it was like month, like it's a
It's a weekend.
everything
Yeah.
completely changes, right, every day. So that was, I think, probably the biggest. It's like relearning, and that led to some of our architectural choices. We chose AWS Bedrocks, and so that we don't hit a model that's running in the cloud from the major providers. We had, because we needed a way to kind of treat these models, pre-trained models, only for inference, so that we're not making sure that we're not pushing any data to the foundational model providers for training. So all of that architecture that went into our solution was something that we had to kind of rethink about, because normally when you're like using a service, you're not thinking that, oh, all my data is like now going to be used by this service for something. Like, that's not how you think about traditionally. So that was an upskilling we had to do mentally, that everything you do, you got to be very careful about. A user asked a question, and where is that question going on, and so that was a pretty important upskilling for us. So I think, just to summarize, engineering talent upskilling, but harder than that was product upskilling, and even harder than that was just operational upskilling.
I love that summary. I massively echo it. Like, I remember I was trying to think what was the last change that I went through in my industry that was similar, and maybe it was mobile for me, coming up the digital experience side.
Yeah.
But like, to a point that you made, that everything changed with mobile, but it didn't happen overnight. It
Yeah.
took a long time, and
Yeah.
now the speed at which you can learn something, the speed at which you can try something out and launch something is completely different. So the reality of AI native applications coming and disrupting major businesses is real now. And the idea that, oh, two people in a garage are going to disrupt your business, they can launch a business in a week now, and they can try it out and then they can change it. It's going to happen. So I think what we had to do with upskilling was, we started demoing to each other very quickly. If anybody figured something out with an agent, with N8N, which is the agent builder, with using combination of copy AI and ChatGPT, or integrating it with Salesforce, or we use Clary for our sales management. So integrating with Clary, if we unlock something, we would immediately share with each other. We would do a lunch and learn. We would chat about it a lot. Our CEO is very good at highlighting people who are figuring things out. When MCP as a technology came out, the Model Context Protocol, we had a salesperson who did a demo, and like a prototype with our platform and MCP. Like that, it came out on Friday, and Saturday we had a prototype, and our CEO was like telling the whole company about it on Monday. So because of that, it's been a really good energy, like almost like what Anurag said, that people are not only learning on their own, but they're feeling celebrated if they're figuring something out.
Yeah.
So that's really helping everybody get behind it. They are encouraging all of us to get pro chat GPT accounts so we can all play with it. Now it's a different problem, that it's a governance problem, but at least it's helping all of us learn really fast. So at least on our side, we haven't had to hire new people for this, but our current people have taken to it very fast across all orgs, across sales, across marketing, engineering, product. Everybody is really into it because my industry is also data industry, so it's very heavy into AI. So we also don't have a choice, but it's also very rewarding and very satisfying. Rare to learn something so fast.
Great. So I think now I'd like to wrap up 2, 3 questions into the final question, including the
Yeah.
closing, because I think we're short on time. So we have, currently in our audience a mix of people, enterprise decision makers, and there are engineers who are just with 3, 4 years experience in traditional technologies, want to move ahead and try to see what they can do in AI. So if you have to advise, an enterprise leader, what are the first initial use cases or steps they should take in terms of getting their feet wet and embracing these technologies? And secondly, if I'm an engineer today and I'm working in .NET, Java, traditional technologies, and now I hear from our clients in Diaspark, like New York Times, Johnson and Johnson, people are already talking about Copilot, GitHub, and all these cursors of the world. So where do they, what is the first step for some of these people who are just starting out, whether it's the senior enterprise manager in terms of use cases, or an engineer who wants to learn some of these skills?
Yeah, so let me talk about the executive first. And my advice would be to, even whether you've been an engineer or not, use a tool like Replit or Lovable and just make something. Go make something today. And you don't need to be an engineer. You just need to be able to express, build me an app that allows me to track my employees or sales across this, geographical area or whatever, and just see what it does for you in a couple of hours. And I think that would give you a whole new perspective. It would open a lot of mental doors for you. I'm just going to leave it at that in the interest of time. And similarly for engineers, I'm going to say something very similar, just like build something.
Cursor. Yeah.
Right? Use Cursor, use whatever is your preferred IDE and build something, right? Like and not just in the old. Yeah, a year ago when you used to tell ChatGPT to like assist you with your code, but actually give it a PR, give it a ticket and say, go fix this. Try this out. Not, if they're not letting you do it in your production code, create a little project yourself and do it. And I'll just leave it at that, because once you do that, I think it'll open, it'll be mind blowing. And I think that would kind of define your next steps for you automatically.
I love that. I 100% echo that. I was on a webinar last week with many leaders, and one of them said they're doing 30 apps in 30 days on Replit. And I was like, oh my God, what a genius idea. So we started a contest at Telium, and we're all doing 30 apps in 30 days just to see what we can do. And by the middle of the month, you start doing very relevant, very, very applicable things. But I would also say, the idea of hallucination, take long form content that you have to consume and try to put it through GenAI and see what it says to you. And you'll realize that you can consume way more and get really good insights out of that. Don't ask it to make stuff, because that it can do whatever, but ask it to analyze stuff that you would have to consume anyway, and then process that way and see, like Anurag said, the results are so crazy that you start thinking about other things you can do. One of my customers told me to go take a prompt engineering course, and I went and did that. They're free on Coursera and all these places. It genuinely up-leveled my prompt skills. So I would even suggest try that if you're not sure where to start.
Thank you. On that note, I think I'd like to thank both of you, Sav and Anurag. This was amazing bit of information, wealth of information, which actually I also learned a lot of things today, listening to both of you. I think we can go on probably for 45 more minutes. So to all our members who are joined here today, if you could please give a feedback, what did you like about this? And your feedback will help us. Probably I can request Sav and Anurag to have an encore of this probably sometime later this year or early next year. So thank you, Sav, thank you, Anurag, and thank you all the members who have joined us today. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.